In The Empire Strikes Back, we saw a thrilling scene of the Millennium Falcon flying out of the mouth of a space slug, and since then, the creature has become quite iconic. The species of space slugs were actually called Exogorths, and while the movies haven't returned to them yet, they've been expanded on in a lot of other Star Wars media. So today, I'm looking at the Exogorths, and trust me, it gets very surprising, and a bit ridiculous. I hope you enjoy. So, what were Exogorths? Exogorths were a silicon-based slug-like species that had dull grey skin, red flesh and blood, green saliva, and large mouths with 45 teeth. They could reach lengths of 900 meters on average, making them so big that they could swallow starships whole and house ecosystems inside of themselves. The way Exogorths got their food was by eating ores in asteroids and by hiding in an asteroid and waiting for things to enter their mouth, which was disguised as a crater or tunnel, feeding on minerals, refined alloys, and radioisotopes. They could also lunge at passing ships, but this was physically demanding and not their preferred method. Exogorths communicated by humming. Also, here's the craziest part of the species. Exogorths could live ridiculously long lives. I kid you not, they could live over 1 billion years old, and this was considered young for an Exogorth. To put this into perspective, the earliest time-stamped event in Star Wars so far as I know, is the construction of the first city levels on Coruscant in 100,000 BBY. A young Exogorth, such as the one in The Empire Strikes Back, is 10,000 times older than this event. That's just mind-blowing. Anyway, moving on, Exogorths, being sentient, also had a culture. Exogorths prided themselves on having stable ecosystems in their bodies, housing countless species that peacefully coexist. The more varied and diverse the ecosystems, the more respectable they'd be considered. Exogorths without any sentient life forms inside of them were considered lacking and projecting a poor self-image. Also, Exogorths held events called the Clue. At the Clue, Exogorths would meet, exchange, reproduce, hum, celebrate, debate, and exhibit the fruits of their experiences. Now that I've covered what Exogorths were, let's look at every canon Exogorth. First up is Sio. Sio was born on the thin, breathless edge of the galaxy, where there was no light or warmth. Its first meal was a dead dwarf star, and it did not eat for centuries after. Sio was raised by its father and mother, which confusingly is just one Exogorth. Sio was taught to hum and was given its name, which means the colour of unloneliness. Sio then turned and headed towards the galactic core at sub-light speed, although knowing it will return here or somewhere like here in the future to sustain its young. As it travelled, Sio accumulated particles and fragments and things and formed a shell to protect its flesh. On the route, Sio saw a massive amount of galactic history, including the formation of the Jedi and the Sith. Sio wept for the dead and marvelled at the living. Sio reached an age of 1 billion years old and was apparently nothing but a baby. As a child, Sio noticed that the tenor of the hum had changed, and Sio knew that the time of the Clue had come. At the Clue, Sio showed off some butterflies they had living inside of them. However, they were laughed at, being told that the creatures were actually Minocs, and that Minocs were unimpressive. This left Sio being alone, and Sio slept. They were woken up though by a ship landing in their mouth, the Millennium Falcon. Sio was very excited by this, and started to prepare breathable air for the crew of the ship. Sio sent some Minocs to welcome them, and show love. The crew got out and investigated, and upon shooting at the Minocs and feeling the insides of Sio shake, rushed to escape. Sio tried to close their mouth on them, but failed. Sio was saddened by this, but claimed it would always remember this crew. A century later, Sio claims it will encounter the atoms of this crew again, and in the future both it and them would understand the other. Next is unidentified Exogorth from the story Amara Rules for TIE Pilot Survival, brackets probably. In From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back. In this story, a group of TIE fighters are on patrol when 3 lesser experienced pilots, which Amara calls Cloudflies, veer off course from their patrol route to investigate a lump of metal seen on the edge of their scopes. These pilots are then attacked by an Exogorth, and one of them ejects and has their ship destroyed. Amara and Howl, 2 more experienced pilots, fly in to help. The pilot Clipper almost flies into Amara, and Amara hits into the space slug. This causes Amara to have to power down her ship, leaving her vulnerable. Howl moves in to save her, flying into the mouth of the Exogorth and shooting. The Exogorth closes its mouth around Howl, but Howl barely escapes, shooting a tooth to pieces and flying through the gap. All of the pilots survived. Now, I'm briefly mentioning 3 Exogorths we know of through Sio. These are Sio's father and mother, Toex and Sai. The last 2 were present at the clue, which Sio was at. Toex had pilot birds inside of it, and Sai had Unark worms inside of it. Next is an unidentified Exogorth who lived in the Agoliba II system during the Galactic Civil War. Thousands of lifetimes before the New Republic, 3 Mistweavers, members of an ancient order which used the Force in unique ways, got themselves trapped inside the Exogorth. They cocooned themselves inside and slowed the flow of time. Years later, Luke Skywalker and a female biologist entered the Exogorth and accidentally awakened these Mistweavers. Together, the 5 of them escaped the Exogorth, and the biologist pledged her life to continue studying Exogorths and their inside ecosystems. Now I'm looking at an unidentified Exogorth from the Vader Dark Visions 2 comic. This Exogorth resided in an asteroid field when a rebel entered the area, escaping the Empire. Commander Tylux soon followed in a Star Destroyer, determined to catch the spy at all costs, so that Vader wouldn't consider him to have failed, and therefore deserving to be killed. In the back end of this chase, the spy tried to escape by flying into the Exogorth's mouth. However, Tylux ordered that the Star Destroyer follow, ramming into the mouth as well. The rebel shot his way out of the Exogorth, and the Star Destroyer ripped through the Exogorth, tearing it apart. Tylux tried to use a tractor beam to catch the spy, but the system was down due to power surges across the ship. Minox from inside the Exogorth were tearing parts of the ship out. The rebel got away, and Vader killed Tylux. Finally, there's a group of Exogorths seen in the Bounty Hunters 12 comic. In this comic, Valence and Dengar find themselves pursued by Zuckuss and Forlom. In attempt to get away, Valence tries flying through an asteroid field with a bunch of Exogorths in it. The Exogorths snap at the ships, but don't catch them. Zuckuss and Forlom catch up with Valence and Dengar. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and we hope to see you later at Volt Holocron.